People frequently ask me about repeat filings for bankruptcy. Can they file a bankruptcy and then later have to file another bankruptcy? Well, the goal of bankruptcy is to give people a fresh start and to teach them how to manage their money so that they never have to file a bankruptcy again. It is possible to file more than one bankruptcy. There are time limits on when you can file a new bankruptcy after having successfully completed a previous bankruptcy. If you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you cannot file another Chapter 7 bankruptcy for 8 years. If you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you cannot file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy for 6 years after the Chapter 13 was filed. If you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you can file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy 4 years after the Chapter 7 bankruptcy was filed. And if you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you can file another Chapter 13 bankruptcy 2 years after the original Chapter 13 bankruptcy was filed. So it is possible to file a series of bankruptcies. However, any bankruptcy must be filed in good faith. That means the court has to believe that you are making an honest effort to repay your creditors and not simply running up debt and then trying to discharge that debt in bankruptcy. Also, if you do not successfully complete a bankruptcy, it is possible to file a new bankruptcy. However, if you repeatedly do this, the court may enter an order that bars you from filing a new bankruptcy for a period of time. That period of time may go anywhere from 6 months to 5 years. So it is important that you learn how to deal with your debts and not file a series of bankruptcies. How long does it take to rebuild your credit after a bankruptcy? Well, that depends on what type of credit you're looking for. You can start rebuilding your credit almost immediately after you file a bankruptcy with the wise use of new credit after a bankruptcy. However, different creditors have different standards for how long you need to be out of bankruptcy before they will consider new credit. The easiest credit to get is a credit card, especially a secured credit card, and you can get one of those almost immediately after you have filed a bankruptcy. A secured credit card is where you put a certain amount of money on deposit with the creditor, and then they allow you to charge up to that amount of money, so that the creditor has protection if you fail to make your payments on the credit card. Car loans are also fairly easy to get after a bankruptcy and are a great way to rebuild your credit if you need a new car. However, you may have higher interest rates depending on how long you've been out of bankruptcy. The longer you're out of bankruptcy, the lower interest rates you'll be able to qualify for. A mortgage is probably the most difficult loan to obtain after bankruptcy, and most mortgage companies want to see that you've been out of bankruptcy and have reestablished your credit for at least 2 years before they'll consider you for a mortgage loan. However, during that 2-year period, you can easily build your credit back up where you will have a good credit score to qualify for new credit. The time period for how long it takes for your bankruptcy to go through is based on 2 different factors. The first, you have the most control over. From the time that you first meet with us until your bankruptcy is filed with the court, there are certain things that you have to accomplish. There's certain information that you have to provide to us for us to be able to prepare your bankruptcy petition. The longer that you take to provide the documents to us, and to provide the paperwork that we need you to complete, the longer it will take for us to prepare your bankruptcy petition. It can go anywhere from a couple of days to several months for your bankruptcy petition to be prepared, just depending on how long it takes for you to get us the necessary information. Once your bankruptcy is filed with the court, Chapter 7 bankruptcies normally take about 4 months to go from the date that it was filed until the date you receive your discharge in the mail. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy will go from 3 to 5 years, depending on how long your payment plan needs to be. When you file a bankruptcy, the court will appoint an individual called the trustee to administer or oversee your case. There are three types of trustees. There's a Chapter 7 trustee whose role it is to review your paperwork and to ask you questions to see if you have any assets that can be liquidated so that they can generate funds to help pay your creditors. In a Chapter 13, there's also a trustee appointed whose job it is to collect your payments and then disperse those funds to the creditor in accordance with the Chapter 13 plan that you file with the court and that is then approved by the court. Finally, there is the U.S. trustee whose role it is to oversee the entire bankruptcy process, to include the Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 trustees to make sure that everyone is doing their job the way it's supposed to be done.